Hi, I'm Brian Saber, president of Asking Matters, and I'm delighted to be here today with my friend Joe Tumolo. Hi, Joe.
Thank you for having me, Brian.
I'm delighted. Joe and I got to know each other a couple of years ago. As a matter of fact, Joe approached me and my co-founder, Andrea Kielstead. He was very interested in Asking Matters and the asking styles. And we've now had a number of opportunities to work together. We trained a group of people together. He's gone out and trained on the material. And we've developed a new product together we'll tell you about. And so I thought it would be nice for us to talk a bit about that. What first drew you to Asking Matters and the asking styles?
Well, Brian, I really enjoy the simplicity of it. There's some great programs out there like DISC and Myers-Briggs, all very, very accomplished, successful programs. But frankly, I find them to be too confusing. And in many circumstances where we are in the real world with a prospect or a donor, it's hard to remember what each of those profile styles are. And certainly when we're not engaged with the donor, when we're thinking about something else, and we're really not present with the donor. So I like the simplicity of it. It's easy to remember. It makes a lot of sense, and it's had a huge impact on the way I train, the way I live my life, even in my personal relationships.
Well, that's interesting. I mean, asking styles is at the core of Asking Matters and at the core of our trainings, and I actually learned an awful lot, even from developing them. So I'm interested to hear what you've learned personally and in terms of fundraising.
Certainly from a training standpoint, when I have my trainer hat on, it really has opened my eyes to understand that everyone has their own style of learning and thinking and processing. And it's enabled me to really bring a special approach to training that I don't think most other trainers and consultants in our space are offering. And that's more customized training based on what someone's style is. So as a go-getter, I think quickly, I don't need a long time to make a decision, I don't like the details, and at the same time I need to recognize that if I'm working with a mission controller who wants more detail, is more introverted and needs more time to process, I need to learn to be patient and give them the data that they need to make a decision. So we talked a lot about, in this new program that we've developed, is learning to adapt our style to the people we're dealing with. So that really, I believe, takes the Asking Matters to the next level, is once we really fully understand our style, then we should, in an authentic way, adapt our style to the people that we're working with, to the donors we're in conversation with.
That's interesting because authenticity is something we talk a lot about in fundraising. And Joe, you and I have talked at length about authenticity and this thin line between being yourself and catering to others and being sensitive to others and being something you're not for someone else, that when it's not authentic. And with the asking styles, it's really being aware of who you are and aware of who the other person is, as you would in any relationship, which takes us back to the personal and how it impacts our lives there. For sophisticated fundraisers who have been in the business for a while and really have their core skills down pat, this is that next level they really have to get to, right?
Absolutely. And I believe that we all possess some aspects of the different asking styles, the different traits. For me, it's more work to be detail-oriented, but I know I can do it because there are times in my life, throughout my day, throughout my week, where I am more like a mission controller, right? So that I can be authentic and I can still be authentic and still possess some of those traits that don't come as naturally to me. So right now I'm working with a donor who's clearly a mission controller. He's a financial guy, and he wants to see reports, he wants to see the analytics, he wants to see metrics. And so I know as a go-getter that I need to work a little harder than maybe my colleague who's a mission controller who has her own donors that she's working with. So for this donor, I need to just step up my mission controller traits. They're there, they're just a little more work for me to use and to be good at.
And we do have a little bit of everything. When we look at the asking styles quadrants, of course, I can look at it and say, well, I'm a bit goal-oriented. It's not that I don't have any goals, and I'm pretty organized. It's not that I'm not organized at all, but when I have to say who at my core am I and what drives me the most, it's my feelings-oriented, attentive, thoughtful, kindred spirit, my touchy-feely part that really drives me every day. So we have to keep that in mind while we round out who we are, especially as fundraisers, because we're expected to do our job. And anyone who's doing their job, I guess, has to rise to the occasion and use different skill sets, right?
And don't you think it's about giving the donor what they want? So this mission controller, he wants me to be more like him, right? He doesn't necessarily want me to be a more of a big picture kind of guy. He wants the facts. He does not want to talk small talk. I know not to ask him about his weekend. It's right to the facts. So it is, I believe, it's about treating people the way they want to be treated.
Yes, and where you realize there's this sort of this spread, you might want to partner with someone or take a different approach, because if you're not good at facts and figures, it's going to be hard to cater to this person no matter what you do. I know for me, I don't internalize the figures that well. I might have a few, but if someone's really focused on them, then I might want someone else to be part of that equation because I know my limits. Yes. So yes, I want to make sure to be mindful of the mission controller, and that might mean stepping back a little bit, actually, because back to the authenticity point, it's not only that we want to be authentic, but it's hard not to be. It takes a lot of work to be inauthentic, right?
Yeah,
So is there another way around that? And that's where the styles can be helpful. See who else is in the room and what can we do to prepare now that we know who we are? So Joe, I know you've used the asking styles in a number of trainings. Can you think of one or two examples where you did an exercise that was really effective, an exercise that included the styles?
Well, beyond the asking styles, there's just so much great content. There's a misnomer, I believe, in the fundraising space that everybody has been trained, formally trained, and it's just not the case. So even people that have been doing it for years, all of us, we can always, if we need to be the eternal student. And I have found that a lot of fundraisers, the majority have never been formally trained. So this is a process and it's structure, which I love and I think that's needed. And so we talk about the case and how to develop a strong case. That is something that we need, all of us, no matter how long we've been doing this, we need to continually hone that skill and sharpen and make that message more compelling. So you've got some great, you have some great processes in there of how to develop a strong case.
Were you formally trained?
I was formally trained. I've been involved in a lot of sales training over the years and some other certifications that I've taken, and I'm continually studying, reading books, studying books, and taking online courses.
Interesting. Well, that doesn't sound intuitive. That sounds much more thoughtful and directive, almost like a combination rainmaker or mission controller, which I find interesting. I've actually never taken a course. I don't think I've ever read a book fully through. I've never been formally trained. I'm such an intuitive, I have to learn on the spot. And when I think about it, a lot of people in the business start in a small organization, and maybe they don't even know they're going to fundraise, and then someone says, oh, will you help me with this grant, or will you help on this special event, or there's a donor, and then bit by bit you learn it and you become a fundraiser for life. And I think a lot of people have that experience. I think you're right, it's less common to be trained. And so there are all these important concepts that you actually don't formally learn. You're sort of applying them without realizing what you're doing.
Yeah, I agree, and it gives people a different perspective. And when we've been doing something for a long time, it's harder to see bigger results or bigger improvement. It's not like when we start out in any task, whether it's fundraising, learning to play the guitar, any type of skill set. Initially, your learning curve, right, is you're learning so much so quickly, and you're changing, you're improving so quickly. But after you've been doing it for a while, you start to plateau. I've been studying sports performance experts who work with professional athletes, Olympic teams. And these are athletes that are at their peak, and they've been doing it a long time, and they've had a lot of great results. So the key is, how do they get to the next level? And it's not these huge changes that they're making, it's these subtle changes. So there's a guy, Matt Parker, who worked with the 2008 British Olympic cycling team. And he just made subtle changes to the things that they were doing. had them consume more fish oils and eat more cherries. He had them spraying their bicycle tires with alcohol to increase the tackiness of the tires on the road. And there's just a subtle changes that they didn't make huge impact, but just enough of a subtle impact that they got better and better, and ultimately ultimately ended up winning 8 gold medals in the Beijing Olympics. So my point is that it's those little changes that we're affecting with people, helping them look at things that they just take for granted, right? What do you say when you pick up the phone to set up a visit to go and ask for a gift? What does your case sound like? Need versus vision. How are you coming across to donors? What are the subtle things that you may be doing or saying that could be turning a donor off? And so we're giving them the tools in every aspect of their work to get better results and raise more money and have happier donors.
That's great, Joe, and I am really looking forward to continuing to work with you, of course. You're a great guy above and beyond it all, and it's been a pleasure. And to bring this new product across the country, in particular to major and planned gift offices, large institutions that have a number of seasoned professionals and want to take them to the next level so that they can win the gold as well. So we look forward to keeping in touch with everyone and to working with you. Thanks for joining us today. Thank you, Joe.
Brian. Thank you.